Good morning, friends, and welcome to the Monday morning message on a Tuesday. The title that I picked to talk about today was Wonderful Counselor. And as I was studying, I realized there's a comma between those two words, so it's actually two titles. But they work so well together that we're going to go ahead and study them as one anyway. But we'll talk about the meanings of both. In Isaiah 9:6, it says, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace." And as I looked up the different definitions for the two different words, I found some really cool things. Wonderful in Greek means remarkable or admirable. I loved the Hebrew definition though. It said beyond the bounds of human powers or expectations. That he is a miracle. What we would describe as a miracle. I mean, we use the word wonderful in such a different way that it's kind of more of just a descriptive, something like lovely or interesting or cool. But the way that it is described in the scriptures is that it is truly a miracle. It's beyond the bounds of our human powers or expectations. And what he does for us is beyond what we are capable of doing and beyond oftentimes what we can understand. But it is what he does, and it is who he is. And counselor, the Hebrew definition was comforter, reassures, strengthens, instructs, reminds. And the Greek definition was to call to one's side or to encourage. So when we look at those two names together, that we see that he is capable of instructing us and comforting us and reassuring us in ways that are beyond our ability to understand. And I know personally that I have felt that in my life, that as I go to him in prayer and humility, and I am open to what he can tell me and teach me, things happen in my life that I cannot understand, that I cannot comprehend his ability to make them happen. When I go to him for comfort, when I'm frustrated, when I'm scared, when I'm angry, when I'm lonely, and I go to him and seek his counsel, the feelings that come over me and the feelings that run through me are beyond understanding for me. I don't know where they come from. I don't know. It is almost like a magic wand has been waved over me, and yet I know it is him, and it is through his atonement, through his power, that he is able to do those things for me. What I have learned and what I love is that he cares about more of our life than just our spiritual well-being. And for a long time I thought that's where his counseling would come in, is just in that spiritual aspect as I'm trying to learn and grow. And yet more recently I've learned that he cares about every aspect of our life. Everything that is important to us is important to him, and he wants to counsel with us. I'm going to share an example from my business, just because for a long time I didn't listen or go to him for business advice or see his hand in my business. And then as I took some different classes and started to become aware, open my eyes to the whisperings that would come to me, I started to recognize how much he did care about all aspects. So what I do is I create flannel board stories, and my focus as the years have gone on, I began with fairy tales and fables and songs for my little kids, and then as I started to develop those and realize how good they were to help them comprehend information and remember information, the thought came to me that I should also do it with the scriptures. And so I started to do scripture stories for my kids, and then eventually I started to market them, to sell them, and the scripture stories became the most popular things that I sell. And in the last little while, my business has increased, and my son is going to be leaving soon. He graduates this year, and he has been a huge part of my production. And he does all the pressing for me. I started to worry about what was going to happen with that once he left. And then my husband started to work with someone who, his wife ran a processing company, and they thought maybe she would be able to help me. So I was going to go meet with her, and I kept putting it off just because I couldn't, in my mind, comprehend how she would be able to help me. And in my mind, I had ruled out anything she could do for me except for maybe cut my sheets of felt. I buy them in the big bolts. She could cut them into squares for me. And that's what I had decided she could do for me. So I went to meet with her, and as I described my process, she actually explained to me that she would be able to print and process everything that I had been worried about was something that she could do for me. She could take these little pieces and put them onto felt in a way that's even better quality and more vibrant and just such a better product than what I was able to do on my own. And I remember leaving that meeting and being so overcome with emotion because I recognized how much I tie God's hands by telling Him what's possible. I decide what He can and can't do, and then that's where my faith goes. And as I left that meeting, and many times since then, I have recognized that He is capable of doing so much more than what we limit Him to. And that if we will have faith that He is wonderful, that He is remarkable, admirable, beyond the bounds of human powers and expectations, that He can do miracles in our lives. And that as we go to Him with all of the concerns in our lives, not just our spiritual concerns, but things with our family, things with our business, things with our financial issues, anything that is a concern to us, when we take it to Him, He can counsel us, He can reassure us, He can comfort us, He can strengthen us and instruct us and remind us. And as we go to Him, we are calling Him to our side, and we are giving Him room to work in the impossibles of our life. And right now we are in the middle of a mess. We are dealing with things that we don't understand, and we are dealing with things that we don't know how it's going to work out. And I just challenge you not to limit God, but to recognize His hand in your life and to look for the miracles that are happening. Look for the things that you can be grateful for, the moments that wouldn't be there if it weren't for this. And to look for ways that you can reach out and minister to others that maybe you wouldn't have been able to before now. To look for the opportunities to be wonderful as instruments in God's hands. And to trust Him that this is for our good and that there will be many good things that come out of it if we trust Him and look to Him as our counselor and recognize that He is wonderful and capable of things that we cannot comprehend. And there are places that we can go to Him in prayer, in His Word, through the Scriptures, and when we open that conduit, when we open our Scriptures, when we kneel in prayer, we open a conduit between Him and ourselves, and we give Him an opportunity to enter our lives and to give us the counsel that we need. And that counsel can come through other things that we're listening to. It can come through song. It can come through the words of a friend. It can come from thoughts. But the most important thing is that as a counselor, when we look to Him as our counselor, as our therapist, we are building a trusting relationship with Him. And we are allowing Him to help guide us and direct us from an outside perspective, which His perspective takes so much more into account. And when we trust Him, things will go better. So that's my challenge, is look for Him as your counselor. Look for the wonderful things that He is doing in your life right now. And I hope, and I know that as you do that, you will see where His hand is, even in the mess. Aaliyah Goff signing off. Get hope, get Christ, get anchored.